The third game here is called Norco. And we're gonna just start it up. Oh! An event. A casual 7 hours, huh? Nice. Norco, Louisiana. Shield hit the stars behind, halogen and flame projected onto the sky every night. Okay, I don't really understand that. Okay, anyway. There was no such thing as silence. The noise never went away. The refinery exhaled an endless sigh. I still can't sleep without that sound. Louisiana, huh? You often dreamed that the towers were cathedrals, that the swamps listened when you spoke. That the birds became radiant spheres while circling Norco's sky. Someone has been taking drugs. Right? You spent your adolescence sleepwalking between little devastating rituals. Though Blake pleaded, you decided to leave. Yeah, gloomy indeed. Blake pleaded, you decided to leave. He'd get over it. He never did. Okay. You caught out on a grainer to Chicago and onward to the west coast thinking you'd never return. A grainer is probably the train we're seeing here, the Canadian National Line, transporting grain through Louisiana. Okay. It has an auto-continue button, right. You wandered through the overlit suburbs of the vast American limbo. Thumbing down 99, you saw an old man crouched in a roadside ditch. He was mouthing your name. He had a familiar gaze. He was gone when you wiped the sleep from your eyes. Okay, I'm not sure where this is going. You spoke to Blake, learning of your mother's declining health, her insomnia, her erratic behavior, and me turning the volume down a bit from droning to better. So Blake's the brother, probably? You ignored the urgency in your brother's voice. Yeah, he's the brother. You headed east. You threw your phone into the Rio Grande and joined the armies of the Mesa. For months you were in the company of fugitives, sleeping in nuclear tunnels, repairing engines and weaponry. Okay. Yeah, this is different, huh? Coming from Genshin is a bit of a tough transition. All the happy colors and all that is gone. And now you are presented with a... Yeah, well, I don't know what to call it. It's a... Seems like a mysterious fiction thing going on. I'm not 100% sure. I just picked it up because it's a point and click adventure with pretty cool graphics, right? Doom and gloom. It's a very accurate depiction of your daily life. All right. I hope it's not really that gloomy, but yeah. The war was a meme that set Albuquerque on fire. You escaped while the foot soldiers of a pop-up junta bloodied the parched land. Okay. While hiding in a freightliner, I slept, obviously. You slept easily as the truck shuttled through the plains. You called home from a landline in a motel somewhere beyond Texas. You knew from Blake's hello that your mother was already dead. You hung up, shouldered your bag, and returned to the highway. 5 years had passed. You made your way back home. Okay. That's a very dreadful introduction. Act 1, Lowland Ghosts. Alright, here we are. We have a map. The map now contains home. You awake from a delirious dream to find yourself in your childhood bedroom. Monkey watches you from the corner. Hey, monkey. Now there's our map. Norco, Louisiana. The Shield Oil Refinery. Alright, that's why it's called that. Home. We can save. We've got audio settings, which I prepared before the stream. The sprawling Shield Industrial Complex. Long ago it was a plantation land, cheap and abundant along the Mississippi River. The refinery grew in stages, slowly displacing surrounding neighborhoods. It's pretty huge. The chemical annex came online later. Children of the enslaved became the neighbors of this machine. Lights. Everywhere. Metal. Halide probing the river's expanse. Halide? What? Oh, right. It's the type of lamp. Yeah. Halide is, in German we call it halogen. It's, yeah, it's one of the gases. Right? That's how I pronounce it. Yeah. Probing the river's expanse, coded patterns of warm sodium and cold LEDs, winking, thinking, knowing. Yeah, he sounded very judgmental. It's like, in this day and age, are you serious? Excuse you? Something to decipher in all that Norco light. The towers. Carbon and alloy and stainless steel. Among the columns sits the catalytic cracking unit that rocked the town. The wetwork crosses high and low, over and under traffic, and water and concrete, like veins, like gossamer, like neural circuitry. I remember blue. You only think that you do. When he died, part of her did too. Ah. Home. What's that thingy? Shield. Blue. You. Alright. You are home again. Because your brother needs you, because your mom died. Okay. Interesting. I read about this game that it has an interesting approach to how you go into the story and how it connects points instead of showing underlying text, or other games use highlights and whatnot. This game does a bit of a more abstract kind of thing, and they call it a mind map. And apparently we can just explore it as we like, which is pretty cool. You were traveling down the Pacific coast. You were in California when the summer arrived. You recall the familiar smile on the face of the old man in the Central Valley ditch. So we are now remembering things. The smile burns its image into your mind. Okay, we're gonna dismiss this for now. The ditch man. The smile of the man who crouched in the ditch of the highway revisits your mind. His head was smudged with Wednesday ashes and mascara ran from his eyes. Wednesday ashes. Can't really place that. There's a cat. Your mom fed the neighborhood strays. They must be hungry since she passed. There's a figurine. Your grandfather's statue of the Virgin Mary sits in the shadows along the crawl space of the house. An air conditioning unit. 3 times this house has flooded. The first flood is barely a memory. Placing your feet on drenched carpet, your mom and grandfather ripping out sheetrock, sitting in a small RV in the backyard, setting dolls on a cluttered table. Oh, I like the writing. Obviously, I'm not a native speaker, so sometimes I have to look up words or have to take words out of context or put them into context to really understand it. But I think the writing is it has a nice flow to it, and you can imagine that these are not words that someone speaks out loud. These are words that happen in the old thinky tank up there, right? So like your inner voice narrating what you see or what you remember, kind of like a perspective that is on the inside and just made visible in the game through the writing. I think it's pretty nicely done, although it is a bit abstract and freaky in terms of the how they introduce the setting here and the gloominess of it all. But yeah, I can relate to it somehow, and that is a good achievement. If I'm not American, right? I don't really know what the hell is going on, and I'm not a person that is super into gloomy, dark stories in the first place. So if something like this clicks with me, it has to be the writing or the mix of writing, the music, or atmospheric sounds, which are good here. Plus the graphics are pretty cool. So that was 13 minutes in, very first impression. That's like the when I do these discovery streams, I do them every week, right? I've been doing that for years now, and usually if a game doesn't have a lot of action, the first 10-15 minutes are just taking in presentation, right? And sometimes I already know after 5 minutes that a form of presentation doesn't really click with me, and then I give the game a bit more time to see if the gameplay works for me, right? And obviously for a point-and-click adventure, they are the first impressions on terms of overall presentation are much more important because it doesn't have more time to give you all the action. It doesn't do that. It stays mostly like it is now. It's going to introduce more information, and it's going to open up its world for you to explore, but that's basically all it does. And so I feel like the presentation is more important, and the atmosphere creation is more important on point-and-click adventures or story-driven or story-based games in general. For an action game, I can say, okay, I don't really like the graphics, but the gameplay is cool. And like before this, we had a platformer combo brawler game that started with a lot of dialogue, and that was very odd. The dialogue didn't really click with me. It also was a translation from Chinese to English to, in my head, then German, which is a bit of a long way for a translation to go. And so I always feel like I have a bit more of a distance to text when it's not in my first language, which is usually not the case because I'm streaming in English, right? So if and that's now the long thought coming to a close. If a text or a writing style like in this game hits the spot, that's a very good achievement in its own. Obviously that's subjective, right? That's just for me. Maybe other people don't really care for the writing and they like the graphics more. But yeah, anyway. Lots of thoughts. The second flood. You were 14. The pumping station failed during a heavy rain. You were in class watching the clouds move upriver. You got a text message from your mom. Stay in... Oh, what? In Destrian? Destrian? How do you pronounce that? Destrian. I'll come get you. For 2 weeks you shared a hotel room with your mom and Blake. You spent all her days gutting the house. In the evenings you would sometimes help. Sometimes, being a 14-year-old, right? Another pump failure, the third flood. Your mum hired contractors with the insurance money. She said she was getting too old for it. You were bitter. You blamed her for not selling the house sooner. You stayed with friends in New Orleans. The fourth flood? will follow a slow hurricane and it will be a calamity. It will leave the entire region submerged as critical levees breach. There will be a massive blackout that lasts weeks. Much of the sewerage? Infrastructure. Sewerage. Okay, I've never seen... Yeah, but I know what it means. Will be damaged beyond repair. The embattled federal government will do nothing to assist. It will bankrupt the region. Small militant enclaves will form along the high ground of the Mississippi River. They will take no piracy and hijack commercial shipping vessels. They will take to piracy and hijack commercial shipping vessels. Private mercenary forces will retaliate in kind. Slowly, industry will flee this hot zone. The old river control structure will collapse from neglect and sabotage. The Mississippi River will again change its course. Norco. An old, abandoned refinery town on a ghost of a river. Your house will be squatted and then raised. So can we see into the future? Is that what we can do? Or is that like we are imagining it? Oh yeah, you can put a CRT filter on if you want. It even comes with the flickering from the low frequency. Oh, deviate. Enjoy the lurk. Do take a nap. That's very important. Thanks for stopping by. And you can... Oh, this is where I saw the text settings. Ah, right. See, they've got dyslexic-friendly text and pixel to fit with the graphics. But if that's not your thing, they give you lots of other options here, which I think is pretty cool. Because you are reading a lot in this type of game, right? So you can go for spacious or compact or standard spacing for the lettering. And then you have how is it called again? Yeah. Serifs, right? With serifs or without. And then you can also set the text speed to faster. And you can change its color. And that's pretty cool in terms of accessibility. I think this is good. I think. Now we have here a representation of what we see on the screen. So instead of clicking on Mary, we can click on the investigation button. He looks very sad. You observe the weathered concrete and flaking paint of this statue. Right, I just changed the font to pixel now, and I think it just fits it a bit better. It's not easier to read, but it's still readable. Inspect further. The face is especially deteriorated, framed by a system of cracks. Right, now we can go back to our headspace. Go back to the front yard. And look at the street. So those are different places. The backyard. Aha, so we can't look into the future. The fourth flood is what happened, huh? And that looks like a robot, doesn't it? Million sits in her characteristic slouch, lost in thought. Her carapace has taken on the rusted and weather-worn quality of the rest of the machinery in the yard. You recall the night that your mom showed up with her. You and Blake stayed up past dawn, poring over pirated API docs. Her ragdoll mass was slumped on the floor as you wrote the routing procedure. You wonder if such memories hide behind her constellation of eyes. The robot regards you casually. Hey, you're awake. Yeah. Couldn't sleep. Best sleep in years? Couldn't sleep. Catherine used to say the sound of the refinery helped pacify you. Perhaps that is no longer true. In any case, I'm certain that was no help. He gestures toward the motorcycle at the edge of the carport. Not a big fan of sound for text. In this case, it actually fits, but still. I was turning over the engine on that bike to test the coils. It's quite noisy, but they're in good shape now. All I need is a fuse, which is highlighted in green, and we can use it to get around while I finish repairing the truck. I heard the phone ringing inside, but I had my hands full. Were you expecting a call? Many people have been calling since Catherine died. Your brother is usually the one to answer the phone, but I don't know where he went off to. I wonder where he could be. Might be at the bar or bookstore if I had to guess. So where can I get a fuse? The gas station just up the road has them, but you may have to persuade Troy to let you in. Why would so many people be calling? Your mother left behind a lot of loose ends. From what little I know, I gather she was conducting research for a client in Fat City. I sense that many people would like to acquire that data. I'm unaware of where she has hidden it. Perhaps Blake knows its whereabouts. The plot thickens, actually, doesn't it? It starts as a kind of weird mishmash of you arriving somewhere from somewhere, and it's all pretty vague. And now we get more and more concrete bits and pieces here, and it does actually get more interesting. Good for us, right? Yeah. Who's this client? I haven't a clue. These aren't things she discussed with me. As the cancer spread, she became more guarded with her research. You always did keep strange company. An occupational hazard, I suppose. Who exactly would want to see the data? Your mother spent her entire life researching this town. She knew histories that others have forgotten. History has a lot of value in this place. Oh, anyway. That's all. So we've got a robot called Million who's working on a motorcycle and a truck. There's a pry bar. An old disused motorcycle with extensive rust and wear. A crab net. A disintegrated crab net. Blue taught your mom how to make these, and your mom taught you. In the summers, you'd bike to the suction before sunrise, tie chicken next to a net, submerge it, and nurse your coffee while waiting for a bite. Catchy crabs. Alright, and we can manually navigate the places, right? Backyard, street, inside. You can also use these here if you don't want to pixel hunt for those. As far as point and click adventures go, this goes to the top list for me. Because it's moody and atmospheric. Because the writing is cool, because it's an interesting start. It has the accessibility options that I want, and it doesn't... What's that? Oh, that's the credits, how they made this game. Cool. You can play in... oh, sorry. Ow, I hurt myself. You can play in expert mode, where you don't see text highlights and don't get extra hints. So if you find this too easy, you can turn it up a bit. And there's apparently also combat, which you can automate. And if you get stuck and you don't want to get stuck and want to finish the story, you can also unlock everything. Yeah, I think that's enough. We don't need to see more. It's always a thing with story games. I don't want to play too much of them. The first game today, Pentiment, which just arrived on Game Pass the other week, is also a story-based point-and-click adventure. And I try to not show too much, just just enough to get you interested if that's your kind of story. Because otherwise, yeah, I don't know. I don't see the point. We saw everything we needed to see. We've got the controls covered, the general introduction, how text is handled, how dialogue is handled, and the extra of the mind map, which I think is particularly cool because it's a further interactable, like a meta, like an extra level of story where you are, or your mind really is at the center. Yeah, that's pretty good. Norco, Louisiana. Probably in the future. I like it. Yeah, I'd play this. I think I'd play this and finish it. And if you know the mood needs to strike for a point and click, it's a different beast of game compared to my usual more action focused games. But yeah, it's good. It's good. And that